Nothing Personal starts in 30 seconds. It's just business. This is Nothing Personal.
Here you go.
Deadline. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day for Monday, November 4th, 2024. Players and teams are facing a deadline. The deadline always happens right after the World Series, where free agents to be have to decide, are they going to declare free agency? Yeah, if they have no other choice. Players with opt-ins or opt-outs have to decide what they're going to do. This is a day that didn't used to be as big a deal when I first started in this industry, but man, it has changed because all of these deals that are signed have these opt-outs. People misunderstood a tweet from the weekend, so I want to be clear why an opt-out can never be good for a team. The reason is that a player who has an opt-out, they have the benefit of looking at their season, going out to the market totally illegally because they are part of a team, measuring what their worth is, and then deciding whether their worth is greater than the value of their contract that they would be, quote unquote, opting into. And then they do a math equation, go to the team that they're on and say, hey, I'm opting out. And then the team all of a sudden has to decide, all right, is there anything we can do to stop the opt-out? There are certain contracts that give a team some sort of action they can take. And there's other contracts where there is no action that a team can take. So, for example, Blake Snell opted out of his deal, one of the Boras clients from last year. He signed that deal really late into spring with the Giants, and it had an opt-out. And it's nothing the Giants can do. You remember he signed that 2-year, $62 million deal? And they just said, and Blake Snell said, hey, I'm going to be a free agent. And the Giants are now one of 30 teams who have an ability to sign him. A little different with Gerrit Cole. Gerrit Cole, the World Series winning pitcher, didn't get the win in the final game, but he helped with 2 solid starts in the World Series, games 1 and game 5. 34 years old. You remember that he signed that huge contract, and this was the situation after the 2024 season. Gerrit Cole has the ability to opt out of the remaining 4 years, $144 million of that original $324 million deal. He can opt out and leave. But if he opts out, the Yankees can make him stay. All the Yankees have to do is tack on 1 more year and make it a 5-year deal remaining for $180 million. So the Yankees get notification of Gerrit Cole's opt-out. And you'd think that the only thing they have to decide is, well, what would Gerrit Cole be worth if he were a free agent today? Right now, at 34 years old, he's going to play 34 all of next year. Is he worth 5 years, 180? Is there anyone on the market who will give Gerrit Cole 5 years, 180 at the age of 34? Stay with me. 34, 35, 36, 37, 38. Gerrit Cole uses sticky stuff, not steroids. Very hard to be a $36 million player without steroids getting into your late 30s. But the Yankees may be saying, listen, we've got a window here. We've got Judge signed. We may lose Soto. We can't control that. He's a free agent. If we get Soto back and we keep Cole, we've got Stanton as a $30 million player for 1 more year, and then his salary goes way down and the Marlins start paying for it. So Stanton doesn't count. But then some of their younger players start getting more expensive, and then you look around and say, who on their team would they ever pay that amount of money for? So maybe it makes sense to keep Cole at that amount of money. But they've got to go to the market. if they're smart and they say, Gerrit, you don't have 5 years, 180 anywhere. You're lucky to go out and get 144, which is what you have left. I don't even think you'll get that. So therefore, why would you opt out? And Gerrit Cole, through Scott Boras, will say, listen, you know that Scott Boras hat that I always wear because he always gets me the most money? You know you're not going to lose me. So I'll make you a deal. Give me a 5-year deal, but I'm happy to renegotiate because you're allowed to do that. The bid and the ask is not either add 1 year at 36 to make it a 5-year 180 or he leaves. You can also renegotiate. You can work in some deferrals. You can change the flow of funds so that next year you get a break because you're still paying Stanton so much. You would have the money to still pay Soto because guess what? Soto's not taking a deferral deal. So Gerrit Cole, to me, gets solved, and the deadline is tonight. Gerrit Cole will stay a Yankee, and I'll actually give you an official wait to see on this when we tell you something's going to happen. If it does, great. If not, we'll revisit it like tomorrow. I think the Yankees agree to terms with Gerrit Cole, but the terms change because that's what I would do were I to be running the Yankees. I would keep him, and I would get him above 144. I would get him close to the 180. If not, get him there notionally, but defer out some money. So we'll wait to see what happens there. The Yankees are also in the market for a first baseman. They made the absolutely expected move of not retaining Anthony Rizzo. Let me give you the math on what you do there. When you sign a player and the last year of the deal is called a club option with a buyout, let's say like Rizzo, you have a club option for $17 million or a buyout for $6 million. A quick use of your brain would tell you that you've got to pay him 6 not to play or 17 to play. But what we think is that we either pay him 6 or is he an $11 million player? Because it's an incremental 11 to have him on your team, paying him the full 17. Or it's like $6 million in dead money, which still counts as cash payroll. So they decided that Rizzo was not an $11 million player. That's why they declined his option. Guess what? He's not an $11 million player. But Anthony Rizzo, as a free agent, will now go into the market, and his agent will convince him to take a 1-year deal that can get him to 11 with incentives and with playing, etc. He's not going to get 11 guaranteed. He'll get some sort of maybe $7 million guaranteed with bonuses getting you to 11 because then the agent can say, look, if you have a good year, you'll make 11 from your new team. You'll get 6 from the Yankees, and you're back at 17, which is where you would have been. So that's another way that a team thinks about when they've got a club option with a buyout. Or you could have a straight player option, which is where the player says, I've got an option year here. I'm going to go to the market and see where I stand. And if I don't think I can get to my 1-year player option number, I'm just going to take that. There's no other scenario that Jordan Montgomery is a member of the Arizona Diamondbacks today. He picked up his player option of $22.5 million. For fans of the show, you may remember Jordan Montgomery, the guy who the owner, Ken Kendrick, said the biggest mistake of my life was making our team sign this guy. Jordan Montgomery was so despondent that he fired Boras, thinking that he got underpaid. The reality is he ought to give Boras a Jeter gift basket because he got overpaid. And now the Diamondbacks are stuck with him at $22.5 million, which is ironic because we have a wait to see from back in October of 2024, which, by the way, is only last month. Got confused on the years for a minute, Coca. We have a wait to see pending that Jordan Montgomery will not start a game for Arizona in 2025. We're not taking the loss on that wait to see. Having Jordan Montgomery back on the team, they are going to do everything they can to trade Jordan Montgomery this offseason. They do not want him in that clubhouse. And they know that it's a complete overpay because Jordan Montgomery picked up the player option, which you only do if the team is overpaying. He'll be gone. Meanwhile, Boras is so busy. I wonder if Clay Bellinger can even get a call back. He used to be Boras's number one when Bellinger was the MVP, and it was such a big deal. What did I call him? It's Cody. Did I call him Clay again? Unbelievable. I'm sorry, folks. 4869. I wonder if Cody Bellinger can even get a call back from Scott Boras these days. Cody Bellinger used to be the belle of the ball, and now he's playing nursing homes on a Thursday night. Now it's funny to say that, given that he exercised a $27.5 million player option for next year. That was according to ESPN's McDaniel and Passon. Remember, Bellinger signed that deal with the Cubs last year when no one would sign him, and it had opt-outs after every year. It was a 3-year, $80 million deal, and Bellinger looked at his season and said, I don't know that I can get more. Except Boras called him and said, Cody, I'm busy, man. I've got to deal with so many players who are better than you. I mean, I'll give you to one of my associates, maybe one of my assistants, maybe John Cocktoaston will help you, or Dr. Rosen, but you can't expect me to spend a minute on you. Why don't you just, accept the 3-year, $80 million, accept year number 2, and we'll worry about it. Have a great year next year. Come on, Cody, you can do it, and we'll worry about you next year. I think that's probably how it worked out. So Bellinger's back. Can you imagine paying Cody Bellinger $27.5 million? It's crazy. Don't worry, Mets fans. Sean Manaea is not coming back. If you thought that he couldn't possibly pitch better after he lowered his arm angle and became sort of that tricky sidearm, 3/4 arm effective pitcher toward the end of the year, he told the Mets, see you later. You don't get me for $13.5 million. I'm going to the market. I'm happy to be a free agent again for the 3rd consecutive year because I'm coming off an LCS appearance, some great starting pitching appearances in that LCS. And frankly, if Michael Wacha is going to be $17 million, then I'm only 32. I'm getting at least Wacha. Wacha's the player for the Royals who also opted out and then re-signed, which was great. He had an opt-out, and the Royals said, we'll keep you. Wacha's a year older than Manaea. Wacha got a 3-year, $51 million deal. So he'll walk in the Royals clubhouse and look at Seth Lugo, his teammate, and say, yo, dude, you only got 15 a year. Who would you rather have, Lugo or Wacha? I'd rather have Lugo also. But Wacha got the deal done, and now Manaea gets to send Wacha a Jeter gift basket because Manaea opted out knowing that he has in his pocket at least Lugo and likely Wacha. Now, would you be the team that would give Sean Manaea a 3-year, $51 million contract? Do you want that to be your team? The other thing that you deal with, which is always interesting, is when you sign pitchers during their arbitration years. Remember, a player is not a free agent until he's been in the league 6 full years of service. So when you call on us to sign young players, lock them up. And my response is, he is locked up. Every young player is signed to a 6-year deal. We don't know what we're going to pay him, but we've got him for 6 years. Sometimes, if you want cost certainty, you sign a player through his arbitration years, guaranteeing him money, even if he doesn't perform well, even if he gets hurt, even if the situation changes with your team, with your financial situation, your TV deal disappears, whatever happens, you don't have the ability to non-tender Devin Williams because you signed him to a guaranteed deal. The Brewers had Devin Williams take over for Josh Hader, who they had traded, as you recall, to the Padres. And they signed Devin Williams to a deal that allowed a club option for Devin Williams' final arbitration year. An absolutely brilliant contract. Because when you have a club option at an amount, let's say $10.5 million in this case, you get to do the easiest math. You don't need an analytics degree from Harvard. Here's the math. Devin Williams is eligible for arbitration one more time before free agency. His arbitration number, given his year and his health, let's say on the high side is $9 million, because that's his arbitration number. because all teams get the arbitration number from the league. They get what the player will get in arbitration. You get a worst case, you get a best case, and you get a actual normal case. Even in a loss scenario, Devin Williams is not going to file for arbitration at 10.5. He has no basis to get that in arbitration. And if you file at 9 and you're the Brewers, therefore the midpoint would be 9.75. If the Brewers file at 9 and Devin files at 10.5, then the midpoint is 9.75. And the Brewers were told, correctly so, that they'll win that case. So there was no scenario for Devin Williams to make $10.5 million. So why would they ever pick up the club option? What a really powerful tool for a team to have. So they denied the club option for Devin Williams, but he's not a free agent. He's still a Brewer. So the Brewers now have him in arbitration. They'll take him to arbitration or settle. He'll make $9 million in arbitration. They paid him $250,000 to buy out his contract. That's a club option with a buyout. Remember, Rizzo had the $6 million buyout. Devin Williams buyout, you keep it as low as possible, $250,000. So that means the Brewers, in a meltdown scenario, pay 9 plus 250. That's 9.25, which is roughly 1.25 million less than what the club option was. So guess what? Devin Williams is going to be a Brewer, and the Brewers saved over $1 million. All of these storylines going on in baseball. This is quite a time when players declare free agency. These options get picked up, not picked up. Meanwhile, the World Series in 7 games would have ended this Saturday night. So under all scenarios, Week 9 would have been an unencumbered NFL Week 9, about halfway through the season. There is some stuff going on in the NFL. Can we just talk about this? And I ask you, do you love parity? Do you crave it where your team is not tanking? Your team has a chance every single year. As our friend John Skipper likes to say, at the end of every season, the league is going to be 500. We get that right, of course. In a league with parity, like in baseball, where we saw no teams win 100, the majority, if not all the teams, will have a 600 winning percentage or lower and a 400 winning percentage or greater. That's the band that you want in your league. The NFL has a problem. I don't know if you were watching the games and you were amortizing the cost of your YouTube TV $800 expenditure, but I was. And I couldn't believe the number of crappy teams. So Coca got to work. And he's got a stat for you. It is the first time this century right now, and we're in 2024, first time this century, and we're a quarter of the way done with the century, that 9 teams out of the 32 have 2 or fewer wins through week 9. Please marinate on that for a second. It's never happened. There are 9 teams that are so bad. The Raiders, just last night, they're one of the 2-win teams, fired their offensive coordinator, their offensive line coach, their quarterback's coach. Meanwhile, you're supposed to be firing Antonio Pierce because he's obviously, in over his head. The Raiders are a disaster. Tom Brady's going to needle him way right in there, take over football operations. Good luck, Antonio, keeping your job after this year. Remember, that's the team that Cliff Kingsbury was hired to be the coach of. And then he didn't get the deal, but it was leaked. But then they couldn't come to a money agreement. They settled on Antonio Pierce. They've got 2 wins. The Giants have 2 wins. They lost at home to the Commanders. Daniel Jones, while some people think he's taking a crappy team on his back and doing the best he can, like you can't win the Kentucky Derby with a bunch of donkeys. Guess what? Daniel Jones is one of those. I'm sorry, Sarah. But the fact is that if you're a Daniel Jones fan on the Giants, you better wear your jersey now because they have an opt-out after this year, and believe me, they're taking it. They recognize that they are not going to win with Daniel Jones and the type of contract he has. They'd only have like $22 million cap hit, dead cap hit. He's done. The Panthers have Bryce Young starting again. They stink. The Saints, Derek Carr. This is a cool one. Coca and I disagreed about this pre-show. What's your opinion of this? And you can get in the chat room and let Coca know. Is it cool to become the first quarterback, Derek Carr, in history to lose to all 31 teams? I think that's cool. That means that you've gotten the nod and you've played every team. It means you've been around. Coca seems to think that it's less than glorious. I think it's cool. The Cleveland Browns, I think Winston may have had the best week of any quarterback yesterday. Coca, wasn't his quarterback rating like 34? Something just unseemly incredible, which was sad because I want his quarterback rating to be a $134 to show that they can win without Watson, but with Winston, it turns out they may not be able to win with anybody. The Jaguars, terrible. I'm picturing Shad Khan going into his meeting today, day after. Hey, I'm telling you, man, he's like Woody Johnson. This is the best team we've ever put together in 25 years. We're good. Don't worry. Be happy. Give me $1 billion for a new stadium. The Dolphins have a problem. They were swept by the Bills. Tua's paid all that money. They're one of the teams that have 2 wins. Now they're scoring points with Tua, but it does no good if you're giving up more points than you're scoring. They're done. They're done. It's really hard for any of these teams to make the playoffs. None of these 9 teams will. But I'm thinking about Roger Goodell. Looking at the standings, commissioners look at standings every day. It's strange. So do players and so do front offices. No, we don't check the standings until after the All-Star break. Bunch of horse hockey. We're just worried about ourselves and getting better each week. Horse hockey. We don't think about playoff permutations. We are just thinking about our game plan for next week. That's triple horse hockey. So Roger Goodell's looking and he's saying, hey, man, how's our product doing? And then he picks up the phone and calls Adam Silver and says, how are you dealing with such a bad product? And Adam says, well, mine is way better than yours. Roger said, no, yours stinks. The NBA is a nightmare. Bunch of threes. That's all they're doing. Everyone's shooting 30%. Telling you, Roger, we're better than you are. No, Adam. So can you picture these commissioners in the suite at Yankee Stadium watching the World Series game, which you did see a picture of during the Stand Up to Cancer shot when you saw them standing there. You're thinking to yourself, it's all relative. You always want to be doing better, more sponsorships, more dollars, better expansion fees, better collective bargaining agreement, better franchise valuation. You always want to be getting better as it compares to the other big leagues in North America. That's what they're doing. There's no way Roger Goodell looks at this season and says we're having a great year. I don't think that's even possible. Forget the fact that a Monday night game got outrated by a World Series game, and forget the fact that numbers are actually down. I think you have to look at your league, and the key would be that you don't want that many teams away from the standard deviation of parity, which is after 9 weeks, 4-5 and 5-4. So you take as many teams you can in that band. If you even want to make it 6-3 and 3-6, you want to have as many teams as possible, if not all in that band. And it turns out that you're looking at 9 teams with 2 or fewer wins. It's really unheard of. Think about the whole tanking thing. Maybe they've succeeded at that, though. If you're going, is there a consensus first round pick in all of the drafts this year, Coca? I assume there's got to be. I don't really know who it would be. I guess could it be Cam Ward from Miami? He could be. Not really, though, but could be. Oh, Deion's son. Maybe he's a good quarterback. Can pay him $50 million at some point. Can you imagine if you're tanking because you want a new quarterback, and if you don't do it right, forget the number 1 pick, you could have the number 9 pick. That's how many bad teams there are. Normally, you're competing with like 3 terrible teams, and you're trying to tank 3 of you, and you fight it out. Oh, this would have been a perfect way. I have no prompter. This is me, live, naked, no idea. What's the name of the coach who won a game at the end of the season by accident and shouldn't have won and then was fired because their team didn't get the number 1 pick? When Coca thinks of it, he'll tell me. I don't have it. This is outrageous. Yes, Lovey Smith. You're the best, Coca. You are on point. Remember what happened? They lost the number 1 pick, and then the Panthers took Bryce Young. That's funny, actually. Maybe Lovey Smith should get a raise. It's all good. All right, last thing about this week, because I can't let it go by. We don't have music yet, but we're going to. It turns out that many of you are interested in Cowboys talk because we get numbers back on segments. So we can't go an NFL weekend without talking Cowboys. God bless you, Jerry Jones. Thank you so much for having such a crappy team. Thank you. Ignoring the fact that I lost my pick of the day because I assumed that you would have some pride and not lose to the Falcons. But now that I've watched, I think it's pretty clear that I'll never take the Cowboys again. Dak Prescott gets hurt with 11 minutes left. Between Prescott and Lamb, they're 2 big-time long-term contracts that were signed before the season started. All the excitement surrounding the Cowboys. All of the wonder, is Mike McCarthy your guy? What are you doing? Prescott gets hurt. It's not for sure, but there are cameras that caught Dak Prescott saying, "We stink." Not exactly in those words. Could have been talking about his fantasy team, could have been talking about a smell on the sideline, standing with the offensive lineman. Who knows what he was talking about, but he may have been talking about his team. And he's right. The Cowboys are terrible. Luckily, they had Derrick Henry signed, and so he had a great game for the Cowboys yesterday because they didn't need Zeke Elliott. They kept him home for disciplinary reasons as a healthy scratch. See you later. But they've got the greatest $9 million running back in the game ready to go for them. Oh, that's right. They didn't have the cap room. Oh, that's also right. They don't have the offensive schemes in order to have a Derrick Henry. What exactly are the schemes that the Cowboys have? A losing scheme. That's what they have. So it is going to be very interesting to see how this season continues to unravel. But if you're looking for bad teams, there's some just bad games. You've got yourself a league. When we come back, we're going to review a movie I watched directed by Anna Kendrick. And then we're going to talk about some stuff in the NBA and one more NFL topic about what happened with Jason Kelce. And don't worry, Coca, I'm not going to offend all the Swifties who are now listening to sports-related shows. I'm not going to yuck on any of the Kelce yums. I promise. Maybe. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Hope you all had a good weekend. This is Nothing Personal. Thank you for downloading, subscribing, for watching us on DraftKings Network, which you can find everywhere. 10 o'clock every day Eastern, we're here. 8 a.m. if you want to get in the chat, try to guess the word of the day. I bet that somebody's going to win tomorrow. I think so. I mean, we'll see, but I would suspect that someone's getting free merch for guessing the word of the day. You can try every time, 8 a.m. Eastern. Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel. It's a funny, active chat. Join it. If you're listening to this, we love you. But you're missing a nice pink shirt, black blazer combo for Monday. My movie game is on point as it is every day. Weekends, I must say that I get 2 in a day because I can, because I'm still waking up at 4 in the morning. It just feels different when you wake up at 4 in the morning. You know, the show live at 8, you get to watch movies without the tension of, oh man, you're going to be live in 4 hours. I watched Woman of the Hour. This is a crazy movie directed by Anna Kendrick. Here's the story of the movie. There's a game show, which you may have heard of, called The Dating Game. There's these 3 guys who are sitting next to each other and they can't see the woman. The woman can't see the guys. And the woman asks them questions and decides at the end, hey, I like you, number 1 or number 2 or number 3. And then the show sends them on vacation together. And it sort of is the great grandfather of Love is Blind and of all of those, the COVID show, the 90 Day Fiance, or all these crazy shows where it's a reality show where you meet someone and, you know, The Bachelor, The Bachelorette. Think about what the dating game has spawned. That is the ultimate reality TV coaching tree ever. And that makes Bill Walsh and Bill Belichick look like schleppers. That's what has come from the dating game. The only negative is when the bachelor that you choose is a serial killer. Then the trip becomes a problem. This is not a horror film. It's not a gory movie. It is a thriller. And it's one where you say, you know, I'm really glad that we live in a place now where we can sort of check people out on social media. We've got friends where we can have an out if we need it. We get the exit phone call. How many of you do that? I do that in every meeting I've ever been to in my career. I have my assistant give me the exit phone call. Hey, gotta go. Sorry, he's got another appointment. That's something you should always do when you get on a call and you're interviewing. Side note, just a little side note for your careers. When you're interviewing with somebody, one of the first questions you should ask, if not the first, is how long do you have? How much time do you have? Now, the answer when you're the boss is you always give an amount of time under what you actually have in case it goes badly. So if it's a 30-minute slot that you've allocated and someone says, hey, how much time do you have? Hey, I got about 20 minutes. Then you can get out of it 10 minutes early. So this movie, directed by Anna Kendrick, her directorial debut, it's fine. It's a solid B. I checked my phone a few times. I was sort of in awe that a serial killer would not get caught and would pass what it is to be a bachelor, because the truth is, this is a true story, that you have he looks not like a serial killer. But then I think about, neither did Ted Bundy. It's worth your time, actually, just because you should give Anna Kendrick your time, because she's giving you an effort to broaden her horizons, sort of tap some untapped skills. So I give her credit. Woman of the Hour. It's a good plain movie, I'd say. Jason Kelce. You're famous. Way more famous than you would normally be. You're a Hall of Fame offensive lineman, no doubt. You'd be one of the guys in the Yellow Jackets. You'd be in Canton. People would celebrate you. You had a great documentary about yourself. Outstanding. Your brother's dating Taylor Swift. You have a podcast that is a 9-figure podcast. And I know deep down you know that what the Swift effect has been, because everyone in the industry knows. And I give you all the credit in the world for taking advantage of that. You retire. You put yourself out in the media. You are getting jobs left and right. You are the face almost of football. The Kelces are really the face of football. Jason's trying to be the face of the broadcasting side. Travis is trying to hang on, keep playing, and he's doing well, trying to win another Super Bowl. Will they get married? Taylor and Travis, will they break up? Will they get married, then break up? I'd say that's probably, God, it's so horrible to give odds on that. I'd say the odds are they get engaged, get married, and then get divorced, only because that's a 50-50 proposition right there. Those seem like good odds. Here's the thing, though. When you have cameras on you, which everyone does who's public, I want you to picture how I look at things, and I am a level G in terms of well-known, and Jason Kelce is a level A. Maybe I'm a level Y. And even at level Y, and I would encourage all of you who are at level Z to also know that cameras are watching. There's a pretty basic principle we have, which is you cannot destroy someone else's property. It's pretty much that simple. If you're going to be in public, you have to have thick skin. Somebody went up to Jason Kelce in Pennsylvania. I believe that's where they were, Coca, in State College, and called his brother a homophobic slur, which is unacceptable. It costs broadcasters their job when they use that slur. It costs players their job and forces them to go into sensitivity training. But it doesn't allow the person who you are calling to grab your phone and throw it to the ground and break it. I want you to look at this video, and I'll describe it for those of you because there's no sound. For those of you just listening, I'm going to describe what happened here with Jason Kelce. Let's show it, Coca. He's walking with a bunch of students. I don't see a bunch of security. He grabs the phone out of the hand of a man or a student in a blue hoodie who's called Travis the F word. Your brother's an F. He grabs the phone and shoves it down and then keeps walking. Here's the thing. I don't believe that anyone should be subject to that type of name calling. I'm not a big fan. But I also grew up, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words and names will never hurt me. If I got physical, now forget I'm not Jason Kelce's size. As a matter of fact, I think 3 of me equals 1 Jason Kelce. But that said, if I physically reacted every time someone called me a name during the course of both my childhood and time in the public eye, I'm not sure how many times that I would have broken somebody's phone or private property. I'm not sure what sort of anger management I'd have to have gone through. I'm not sure how thin my skin would be. So much so that veins would be popping out everywhere, and I wouldn't be a 30 waist, I'd be a 26 waist. You can't react to every Tom, Dick, and Harry who is going to act like a prize fool and say things that are so disgusting that it makes your hair stand up, but it's not hate speech. It's protected, and above that, your property is protected. This student could sue Jason Kelce for destruction of property. I'm not sure the student will. Why would he want to bring attention to the fact that he's adult? Why would he want to bring attention to the fact that he's a homophobe? Why would he want to bring attention to the fact that he used that word? Maybe he'll disappear into the ether of graduates who end up living their life and regretting their moment and maybe thinking twice. Maybe he's a changed man. But if you're Jason Kelce, you got to be better. If he's my player, if he's my employee, if he's my broadcaster, I'm talking to Jason and saying, listen, you're a target, my friend. You don't make $100 million on your podcast and then another certainly 8 figures for all the media work you're doing and think that you're not going to be spoken to in a way that you don't want to be spoken to. You've got to be better. Coke always wants us to be great, be better. Part of that is knowing that when someone presses your buttons, you can't let them do it. Whether it's your spouse, your friend, or a stranger seeing you on the street. We have a very, very weird world. This week's going to be something, and we'll talk about it. But you can't let people press your buttons. The thing about like fighting, like domestic violence, it's about button pressing. Arguments that spouses have or friends have or business partners have. It's like a negotiating stance is to find out what someone else's button is. You press it and see if they go on tilt. And if they go on tilt, you know they're screwed and you got them. Jason Kelce can't be allowed to let someone like that put him on tilt. It's going to be an interesting time to see whether or not he's disciplined, to see whether or not the kid will come forward and try to sue him for destruction of property. Maybe a simple assault, by the way, with the phone being an extension of your body. I don't think nothing will come of it. And hopefully it's a teaching moment for Jason, because I can picture Taylor's people calling Travis calling Jason and saying, dude, this is not what we want. There's a lot of those calls that get made in the this is not what we want category. Josh Harris made a call to Daryl Morey. The owner of the Sixers called Daryl Morey, certainly, and said, this is not what we want. Joel Embiid confronted and shoved a Philadelphia Inquirer columnist, a guy named Marcus Hayes, who's a really good columnist. They were in the locker room, and Hayes was talking to Embiid. Hayes had written an article about the fact that Embiid doesn't play. Whether he's in shape, not in shape, we don't know. But the theory is, this is basically the theory that was put forward by Hayes. If you're going to be the greatest, you got to play, and you got to come ready to play. And in the article, Hayes invoked the fact that Embiid wants to be a leader to his child and to his brother who have passed away. And Embiid did not take kindly to the article, confronted the writer, and then hit him, shoved him. The brother passed away, not the son, is obviously what I meant. Thank God the son has not passed away. It's hard enough, worse enough, losing your sibling. So Embiid confronts Hayes and then actually puts his hand on him. The confrontation becomes physical. They get separated, and the Sixers were forced to call Hayes into the office and apologize. He immediately was brought in to see Daryl Morey and the general manager, Elton Brand, and they basically said, and we quote, apologize for the incident. They expressed regret that it happened, and they asked me for my version of events, which Hayes gave. The editor of the Inquirer came out and said, Marcus Hayes is an experienced and accomplished columnist who offers sharp and illuminating commentary grounded in his observations. That's what a columnist is supposed to do. You are free to disagree with what he says. That's true. But a physical assault is unwarranted and untenable, and we are taking this matter seriously. The NBA is investigating. Everybody will investigate. Joel Embiid has a problem. You cannot put your hands on people. You cannot put your hands on people's phone. Embiid is a current player, one of the highest paid players, maybe the face of a franchise, an Olympian, a gold medal winning player who chose U.S. over France. Here's my advice to Joel Embiid. You have to understand that there are things that columnists will write about you that you don't agree with. And you have to understand that you don't help it when you come out and say you'll never play back-to-backs the rest of your career, that the regular season has become a joke in the NBA, and you're the face of that joke. You and Kawhi Leonard are the two faces of players who have said, no, I don't care. The anti-LeBron James. I don't care about today. I only care about being healthy May and June. I don't care what a columnist writes about you, and I can tell you from personal experience, there's some columnists who've said some things very, very upsetting, angering, frustrating, wrong in every way. Putting a hand on them? The Sixers are going to have to accept when the NBA fines Embiid. I would not be surprised if there's an agreed-upon suspension with the players' union, but certainly there will be a hefty fine, as there should be. There is no way that you can bite the hand, almost literally, that feeds you. And what feeds you, it's not the Twitter account. It's not the Instagram of the players. The league wants newspapers. They want columnists. They want coverage like that in order to hit all demographics. Shameful. Almost as shameful as my nothing personal pick of the day record. 150 and 162. Let me do that again, Coco, because I don't want to make light of what Embiid did and Kelce did, because it's not, and I don't feel like it is. So give us a wipe, and we'll go straight into nothing personal pick of the day, just as a clean break. 4, 8, 6, 9. Nothing personal pick of the day. We are 150 and 162. It's outrageously disgraceful. We had the Nuggets plus 154 in the money line over the T-Wolves. That lost Friday night. We had the Cowboys plus 3 versus the Falcons yesterday. That stunk. 12 games under. We're back to that. I mean, we still have 2 full months here, and my wait to see that I'll get back to even by the end of December. We are in dire jeopardy. Tonight, we've got the Bucs and Chiefs. The Chiefs are one of the good teams. They're the ones with the good quarterbacks. Word to the wise, if you're going to pay your quarterback, you better make it Mahomes. Stafford, he won a Super Bowl. Otherwise, be very careful giving $50 million to your quarterback. We're going to take the Bucs and the points. And the reason we're taking the Bucs and the points, and I agree, I'll tell you, I'm fading myself. Because I looked at that game, I said, there's no way that Mahomes, this is a 37-10 game. But I'm fading myself, so I'm taking the Bucs plus 9. Now, maybe I should do a double reverse fade, and I wanted the Chiefs. I'm taking the Bucs, therefore I should take the Chiefs because I'm not going to get it right. But nope, our pick of the day is Bucks +9 versus the Chiefs. Well, it's November 4th. We got 5 minutes left to go. Stay with me and hear me out on this. If you haven't participated in early voting, which people have participated in record numbers this election, tomorrow is not just the presidential election, it's also all sorts of down ballot elections. Whether it's your school board, Bimmel, you got this, man. One more day of canvassing. The COO of Meadowlark Media is trying to get elected into the school board in Jersey. We did a segment on that a couple weeks ago. Whether you are running for House, Senate, your ballot will include all sorts of other propositions where you'll be asked to answer yes or no. Please read it. I believe we'll have record turnout, which is great. I never understood why we wouldn't get 100% turnout of all eligible voters. Are you busy? Do you really not care? And even if you don't care, don't you owe it to the people who are willing to represent you, no matter how bad they are, no matter how much they actually don't care about you and your plight in life, and they care about their power, their money, and what it is to be a politician? Don't you think they stepped up? They allowed their skeletons to be exposed. Please vote. If you don't know by now where people stand, so as an example, I think we know the New York Post endorsed Trump. I think that we know that the New York Post tends to endorse Republicans. I think you know that the New York Times tends to be more liberal. They endorsed Harris. You can like the Post, you can like the Times, you can like Trump, you can like Harris. You can like neither. Don't give me the crap that you don't like either, so therefore you're not going to vote. That is an unacceptable response. Go full Jack Nicholson and mind a Post if you want to criticize what your candidates are doing. Go run for office, even if it's school board, city council, anything. If you don't know by now that Saturday Night Live is left-leaning, then you're not paying attention. Kamala Harris appeared on Saturday Night Live this weekend. She did a skit, part of the cold open with Maya Rudolph. Side note, rest in peace, Quincy Jones, who just passed away. 91 years old. Go look at what he accomplished in his 11 years ago. So Kamala Harris goes on Saturday Night Live, and there's a Republican who is basically on the board of the FCC who said that violated FCC's equal time rule. There's a Republican commissioner. His name is Brendan Carr. He goes on Twitter and says, hey, listen, if you're going to have Kamala Harris on, you have to have Trump on, or you have to make it open for Trump to be on. I guess my answer to that, the FCC does have rules on political programming, and I get why they do that. It makes perfect sense to me. The FCC requires that all broadcasters, in the event of an appearance by a legally qualified candidate, which is Harris, they have to entertain requests for equal opportunity by the opposing legally qualified candidate for the same office, which means that if Trump wanted to be on Saturday Night Live, the theory is he should have been allowed to be on as well as Harris. Down ballot stuff where people may not know, and it's all about name recognition, and, oh, I've seen a lawn sign, or, oh, I've heard of that name, that's the incumbent. That, to me, is what the equality is about for our broadcasters. If you don't know that Trump and Harris are running against each other, and if you think that people watch Saturday Night Live and they watched the skit on Saturday night and said, I'm voting for Harris. He was so good in that skit that it makes perfect sense for me to do that. Phew, I was going to go into the ballot box and not know who I was going to vote for. But I watched Saturday Night Live, and I know that they don't have any left leanings. That's where I'm going. Would you give me a break? Everybody. When you go look at your ballot and you decide what you're going to do, the theory is that you all know who you're going to vote for. You may lie to people about who you vote for. That does happen. You may not want to admit it. You may try to understand more issues today, do some more reading. You'll sit there watching TV tomorrow night like the rest of us, knowing that no result will be done. And you're hoping, and we'll talk about this more tomorrow, but not too much, but you're hoping that it won't be such chaos that we will be ruled in fear. What I'm hoping is for turnout. You want to vote red, vote red. You want to vote blue, vote blue. But please don't sit this out. We did so much as a country. I didn't do a thing. I took advantage of what everyone else did. So much was done for you to have the right that we get to exercise tomorrow. It should excite you to exercise that right, and you should be thankful for it. And I'm confident you'll do it. We'll be back tomorrow. Voting, it's just your business. This is nothing personal.